Hey, in this week's video, I'm going to show you how to use Electron with local storage. So this is actually going to be, this is a library someone wrote on GitHub that is local JSON storage. So if you look at my screen right now, I have it open. It's relatively simple. It's a read and write with JSON objects. I've taken a look at a couple Mac applications. So Atom is a good example built on Electron. It just has an application.json file if you open up the package contents. And so this is actually a pretty good solution. I've personally used it. I really like it. It's pretty simple to use. So I'll show you how to use it and get started with it. First, I've included all these links in the description. So this is the basic Electron React boilerplate code. It was written by someone else. It doesn't have any Redux or anything, so I like to work off it just because it's very, very simple. So first thing I'm going to ask you to do is go to the green button, hit git clone, or you can just fork the repo for yourself. I'm on my desktop. I'm just going to do a git clone and then paste the URL. So I'm going to switch over CD into that repo I just downloaded, and I'm just going to do an npm install. And that's going to take a couple minutes to actually install, so I'm going to switch back and explain what's going to kind of happen here. So this is an app I built. I just use it to reference. This is a speed test app. It just sits in the top tray. It's relatively simple. And what we're going to do is first set up calling from the front end. So if you've never built an Electron app, I checked out some of the past Electron videos. Speaking from the React side, so when the click goes through, it goes to the back end to the main.js file. It grabs it from something from local storage or saves, and then it passes the response or the saved object back from main back to the React side so that we can see it. And so I'll go through and show you how to do all that. So we're going to start by setting up that back and forth call. Just waiting for this to finish installing. You'll need a text editor. I'm using Atom, so I just opened it up here. And so if you look at your code here, you get your main.js file. And then here, if you open up your source, you have in containers, you have your app.js file. What we'll do is we'll just put a button in there. Well, actually, change of plans. We'll put a full form in there. So we'll just say, okay, button on. We won't put an OnClick yet. And load save text. I'll put a div in there. No, I'll keep it as a div. And then I'll make this the text. Make this a test for now. And then copy this, paste it again, and make this an input box. And call it save text. And so I have to add a couple things. So for the input box, I need an onChange or text box change. This is all basic React stuff, so we don't even need this to finish installing because we're not using it yet. So this is the on text box change, and this is the event. And if you know from React development that the value lives in event.target.value. And just to change the syntax of writing this, it's that. And we'll need a constructor to save the value in state. Super props, and then this dot state dot and it'll start as blank, and then when we get this, we'll say this dot save dot set state. And just to kind of quickly explain what I've done here is I've created this on change where it gets the value of the text box as you type. It takes it and saves into state, and then we put it into the state is here. And so what we can do is say grab the value from the state. This is just the shorthand, so this would be the same as writing that. And just find it looks a little cleaner. And this value will go as the text box value, and we'll say on change. We want to run this function here, and this is too long of a line, so we'll break it up into so it looks cleaner. And the last thing is this, we can't just do this dot on text box, so we have to actually bind it to the component. So we do this dot bind. And so what I've done there is I just copied it and then pasted it in. So that should technically handle as you type, and this should be empty. And what we're going to do is actually create another value saying, call this the response value because we'll grab it from storage, and we'll start as blank, and we'll leave it as and we're just going to switch those two things around because the idea is you press load and then we'll load it into state and then we'll show, so just the user flow. And for now this we're just going to verify that as you type something gets loaded into the text box. So we'll switch to our terminal, everything's installed, so we're going to run npm run dev. It's sitting on port 4000 if you're using myfork. The other one I think sits on a pretty common port. That's why I changed it. And so as you can see, we have our load save text, and as I type, it should change. It does. We're good. Our text box is now set up. So our next step is to actually handle the IPC and the main passing with the IPC. It's kind of. So what you'll need to do is first we'll have to create a new folder called utils, and this is just, you don't have to do this, and we're going to create a file called constants. The reason why we create that file is because we'll be referencing the same string on both the front end, which is this app.js, and the back end, which is main.js. And the reason why we create the constants is because if the string ever changes for some reason, maybe you make it too general and then you add in things later and you need to change it, you want to just have to change the variable. So you might not want to have to change the variable, you might want to just change the string or vice versa. So this is just like to keep it relatively clean. And so I have my constants file. It looks like this, modules.export. And what we're going to be doing is we need to fetch the backend call. So this would be fetch text. That's one. We're going to have to save text in storage. So that's going from the front end to the back end, and the other one is going from the front end to the back end as well. So we'll have to handle this. Handle, and we'll just call this the same thing. Handle save text. And obviously these can't all have the same actual strings, so we'll just change this to be fetch text from storage and save text in storage. And handle fetch text from and handle save text in storage. Constants are now set up. Next we'll have to just do the IPC main, and let's do the backend first. So what you need to do is, I have this file, this is in the description. One thing I do is I import the constants. But before that I actually import IPC main, which is what we're going to use. So IPC main, put these on new lines. It's now imported. That wasn't super hard. Just gonna add this semicolon, and then next thing we have to do is import the constants. So what we're gonna do is just do constants, and then we'll enter the names in there, and then we say require. And since main is on the root, and then this is one folder down, you should // and then utils constants. And we just gotta grab all those constants. So fetch text, save text in storage, handle fetch text, and handle save text. Those are all now saved. We're going to scroll down just above this app dot. We're going to add our IPC on call, which looks like this. I'm just going to copy it. So it's IPC.main, IPC main.on, and then this is the constant that we're in reference. This would be, in this case, fetch text and save text in storage. So that's the action we're going to perform. We're going to add that in after we add the actual storage library in. And we'll have to do the same with save text. And then in both cases we have to tell the front end that we're done, and that's where those two other constants come in. And so scrolling again back up, I know I'm doing a lot of scrolling and jumping here. Here's an example of how to do that. Here, so we were working off the main window. And so main window is the window we have, and we're going to say .send, and then this will be the constant, so this will handle save text and storage. And we're going to pass, this is the data we get to pass back, it's an object, or it's just an argument actually, but we're going to pass back an object, and we're going to say yes, it was successful, and the message is going to say saved. And the next thing we're going to do is copy this and do the exact same thing for the grab text from storage, because this is where we're going to actually return the text. And we'll just do this for now. Put some dummy text in there, and we'll say handle. So that's the main.js is now set up. Now we have to set up the actual app.js, the whole front end here, to do the same thing, to handle the click and the response. So I've included this in the description. This is how you call the IPC main. So copy that. I'll type it out in front of you. We need some button clicks here, so start with OnClick, and then we'll call this dot load save text. And obviously we could get rid of this and just put this on like the on mount or something. So I'll put a console log in there so we know the call is going out. And we're gonna have to bind this, so what I did was I copied the text there, so this is a little faster. And we've binded it, so now this, when you click it, calls this function. And the last step is to add this IPC renderer.send, and then we need the constant here. And this is just if we want to pass any arguments back. We don't need to. We will when we actually go to save text. But here we actually need to get the constants, and we need to also get the IPC renderer, which are both not imported yet. So we'll start with the IPC renderer. So you say import IPC renderer, and you say from Electron, which grabs it from the Electron library. And you want to grab the constants, and so we'll actually grab the constants in a second, and this will be from, and as you can see, back one folder, back two folders, utils, constants, and then we'll just, I'm just going to copy and paste it from main here, just to save myself the typing. So just to save myself the typing. And so when we want to reference this one, so fetch text from storage is going to be called here, and this will call the IPC main. But now we actually have to handle the response to that, and that's with these listeners. So we usually do IPC on, which creates an event listener when the component's after it's been mounted. And when you go to unmount the component, you remove the listener. And so with that, component did mount, and that's where you call the listener. So this is where we're going to call our handle fetch text. This would be the response. So we'll call this handle fetch text, and we're gonna I actually just copied that. We'll first do the remove the listener, so we're done with that component. Will unmount, I think it is. And again, I'm just going to copy it. It's just ipc.remove listener, and then you just copy the second half. So ipc remove listener, and then you copy this. And so this function actually doesn't exist yet. So I copy it. I'm just telling you to copy it because I'm moving faster. And then we're going to just create it right here. And this is going to pass back an event and data. And inside data will contain text. So data would be, in this case, if we look at our main here, I know I'm doing a lot more jumping again. This would be this object, the success, message, text, and so we're just going to make the assumption that it's always successful. And we can grab text from data. Again, this is the same as doing the following. And we have text, and with that we want to actually save it to the state, to the response value. So I just copied that. I said, and so that will add it to state. What will happen if you know your React? It will re-render, grab it from state, and we'll have our text value there. Now none of this will happen if we don't actually set up the save action. And so we'll do that now. We went through the entire it's the exact same process kind of. With one slight change, so we're just going to copy this. This will be handle what's the other one? Handle save in text storage. And I'm just going to say handle save text. It's going to be the name of it. Copy this whole line. Step down to here. Copy the remove listener. Change it to be that. And now I just have to create this function here. The event and data get passed through. I'm just going to put a console log because nothing's actually going to change. I mean, you know what, I'll actually change this so that it clears the text box value. And I know I put a button there to do this, like the load button, but you know what, after you hit save, it will call the load. So it just reloads the text. And the last step is the load. And we'll create a function called save text. And we'll just bind that to the component. And we'll say OnClick this.save text. The last thing we actually need to do is make the call to the main.js, and so we have to grab the state here. Again, copying it, a lot of copying in this. So I got constant, I got the text box value. And I'll have to do the same thing here, but instead of ping, I'm actually going to pass the text through. So this would be save text in storage or something like that. And I'll change it to be the save text box value. Okay, so hypothetically everything works. We now just have to change the main.js to accept our contents, or like our parameters here. And so I'm just going to look at my main.js here. At one point actually, here, event and then the arguments are the two things being passed through. And in save app data, I actually reference it. Okay. So it'd be event and argument. I don't care about the fetch text, that's just a general call. But argument here is actually the text that's being saved. And so I'm going to say hypothetically, I'll just pass it back through. And so we'll just test this all out. I know it's just set up. We're not even at the proper library step yet, but we'll just see if our IPC main and our renderer are all set up. So what we'll do is stop that, and then we're going to do an npm run dev again. So we'll have a couple of console logs here. So first we're gonna have load save text, which should just pass back foobar, and it does, and that works perfectly because we haven't actually added the call. And then this should pass. We'll say foobar2 and hit save. This .set state is not a function. This .set state is not a function. Where did that come from? Line 38, handle save text. Handle save text. I have not bind this to the actual component, so that won't work. For safety reasons, not safety reasons, but just for consistency's sake, actually stop it and then restart the whole thing. Not super needed, but switch back to the console here. I'll type foobar2 in, and this should actually refresh this to say foobar again. And it did, meaning it kind of saved, I think. We have no console logs on the main.js, but I'm just going to assume that. Okay, you know what, I can't assume. So jump to main.js here, and I'm just going to print out the argument here. Stop this, clear it, do an npm run dev. Alright, I see foobar2 there, so it worked. Okay, so we're all set up. Now we have to actually take a look at this Electron Library. So this is Electron storage. I don't know, I just commit, just hit. We just have to now install it. So start with this npm, stop your app, do an npm install -- save, or you can put that at the end, Electron.js storage, and that will install. And keep scrolling down here. So they have a couple commands. There's really just two main ones. I personally use. You can see where the directory is if you do the following: storage.set data path. You can see where it is. Or get data path, not that one. And that will just tell you which folder it is. So it's like /user/ your name /app/ the app name, or /app data or something like that. And that's what that will return. But what I use is really just two commands. It's the get and the put. That's all I care about, because I'm just saving basic JSON data, or if I am, I'm just going to save a JSON object, and I usually just pass all of it back to the front end, because if it's on someone's computer, they own the data. You run the risk of, don't ever put anything secure on someone's personal computer like that if you don't want them to see it. And so we just need to copy this one line, constants, and then it's called storage. So I'm going to switch. I'm on my main.js file. I'm scroll to the very top, and above the constants, just because this is a relative path, I'm going to put storage in there and import it. And we're going to just copy their get request here, and this will become here. It throws an error, but we won't. Yeah, I don't want, if there's an error, I don't want to actually throw the error. I would rather I'd rather me return the following. So we have this data object, as you saw. It's going to return success is false. I don't know. Handle these errors properly on the React side, and then returns data, and I'm just going to say data.text, or saved text is what it will be referenced. And so I'll just say save text like that, and then I'll do my data, and then if save text is empty, just pass back an actual set of empty strings instead of undefined. And that should, that should work. Now it's a matter of actually saving it properly. Get many, and then this is get all. Checks that's a has. Remove. This is like a remove. That clears. I just want to see set. This is what I'm looking for. Set. You pass in the key. So for example, foobar is what we're going to save. So remember I mentioned application. Electron has a file in the package. It's called application.json. This would be called foobar.json, and then it would contain this JSON object. And so we'll do the same. We'll just do. We won't call it foobar just for demo reasons. We'll save it as application, same as. And if there's an error, I'm just going to throw the exact same error. Just change to say text not saved. But if it does save, I want it to say this will be saved text. This will be the argument be passed in, and we'll call ours application. So it saves as application.json. Yeah, and so with that, it should. Let's give it a try. So I do an npm run dev. It's going to open up. And so we'll just, so if I do a loads save text, it called it, I don't think it returned anything. But let's try this. Test 1, hit save. Passed in test 1. Load save text. That means it's not returning properly. And I think I know why. This is the wrong one. Issue with copying and pasting. And I'm just going to switch to my app.js. I'm just going to add a response here. Load save text, and then I want to handle, I want to see what we're getting back. So handle, fetch text, and comma. I just want to see the data. Let's see data. I just want to see the response. I'm just going to stop that, do an npm run dev to fix it. So I'm going to hit load save text to see what we get back. Text return was blank. I'm going to try this. Test 1, save. Text was test 1, which went through. That means my save isn't working. And I think I know why. I think because I changed the name of the actual file here. Like I changed it to be application. And this is saving in the foobar. Okay, so again, do an npm run dev. Sorry that this is slow. Try this again, load save text, return test 1. Oh, there we go. So it did save, and then I can say it changed to be text test 2, and it updates there. And that's how you do local storage with Electron. Sorry about the whole setup that it took so long. Next week I come out with doing HTTP requests. Check that out. If you like this video, please like it, please subscribe. I'll see you next week.